Hello there folks, this is Ferengi on board again, this time with a video again on the principle of parasitic entities. And well, the point of this video is, well, I think it's gonna be a lengthy one, hopefully not necessarily. This is something that I kind of like discussing about. Now, ever since I was young, I had these ideas of kind of a fear of things that could enter your mind and for some reason have you do things that don't necessarily represent you. Okay, these were what I would initially call viruses, because for some reason I had a passion towards computer viruses for some reason. Okay, now it is said when you are born, if you have such manifestations, it is most likely linked to previous lives, because it is said that each life will usually continue on something that you left unfinished in the previous ones. Okay, so I kind of have the impression I have been this virus detector or something like that, because I'm very keen on doing this, and one of the first things that I subconsciously and consciously do is identifying parasitic tendencies within people, as well as the possible parasites that they might have. This is something that I usually do subconsciously. I don't spend too much conscious effort on this, but at times I might even do it. Now, parasites and parasitic entities can be very advanced, can be very simple. Usually they don't have too much strength, that is why they require, a lot of careful management, and they are just like a business. They expand from one person to another, and the more people they have, it's not necessarily they have more power, because they have to manage more possible events. With the planet ascending and the general vibration going upwards and upwards, the point is they have to keep a firmer and firmer grasp on people. So the point is they have to put more energy towards it. Sooner or later they will have to adapt, and they have to do great efforts of improving their vibration as well, so as to keep up with people, or they will simply dissipate. Now, an entity like this is usually created by us humans, and kind of most of them have been created by us, and well, not all of them. They are dimensional parasites as well. They have come from different dimensions. Now, the point is, these also serve as spawning pools for others, because they also create their own armies if needed. And that is why we have spiritual warfare. Some of them can be very advanced indeed, and it takes a lot of positive forces to counteract them, and that is why they also need a lot of human slaves and also animal slaves, but especially humans, because the human mind is much more powerful than animals, and it boasts a much more powerful imagination. Couple that with fear and the fact that the mind cannot simply stop itself from creation, because it's nothing else than an engine of creation. The point is that they will act just like a virus. So what a virus is, well, science calls it as something that is not alive. Well, parasites are alive, and so are viruses. Okay, now science says that viruses are not alive because, you see, they don't have a metabolism of their own. But science, as I call it, is one of the greatest traps of the mind, because it does nothing else than classify things and label things, which is, in my opinion, it is something stupid. Okay, it is something primitive, something irrelevant, because irrespective of how you classify things, they will still be the same. Okay, it doesn't matter how you classify cockroaches, or if you call them so, they will still be that, and they will still live as well as they do, even if you no longer exist. Even if you classify them, even if you overclassify them, they will still exist. And also, well, science, I call it a, well, general something fell behind me. I think my house is a bit haunted, I don't know exactly. Okay, so the point with these viruses is that, well, science calls them undead, because, well, I would call them undead because, well, scientifically they are dead, but they are not. They are a vibration, so they are alive. Okay, everything that is energy is alive, because, well, energy equals vibration and vibration equals life. Science also says that, everything has to be biological to exist in a way, so again it is kind of wrong in here. Why I see science as a distraction is, well, because it kind of is. It's pulling you away from the awesomeness that you are and from the infinite potential that you have inside, and it is nothing else than the enforcement of others. You see, now I see science as kind of, the second Bible. It's like if you don't believe it, it's like you're some kind of heretic, and it is a way of ruling people because it gives a lot of that juicy details, right, that so many people are, desperate about. Why? Well, because the mind is dependent upon, a lot of details, because once you have a lot of details, you have a lot of control. But science just invents stuff usually because you have a lot of concepts and constructs that you're going to use for stuff that is already existent. So basically science did not ever invent anything. It's just a theoretical principle of something. Okay, when you put something into practice, you just put it into practice. You're not necessarily using it scientifically. Okay, that's some pathetic excuse that you're using, but I'm not going to dive into this because I'm sure most likely it will piss off a lot of people. Why is this again a distraction? Because as usual its purpose is to take you away from your internal awesomeness, and well, it's just like other things, it's only guiding you to seek happiness and fulfillment outside, because a simple mind will seek fulfillment in the more it knows. Okay, add some parasitic entities to that and well, you get extra control, because parasites will use control over you in whatever way, shape or form to simply control you. Okay, that's how they assert their control over you, and they will also make you more controlling, because the more you become controlled by parasites, basically you will kind of replicate their behavior. So if you see people manifesting certain fetishes, those situations are only because of some parasites that live within them, and based on the fetishes that those people exhibit, well, those fetishes are nothing else than curiosities of those parasites, to give you a broad example. Now you can see people by the way they behave, you can simply deduct the type of parasite that is controlling them. Okay, they can be parasites of so-called mercy, those people who piss their eyes, and always cry, and they always moan, bitch, whine and complain, and they piss their eyes like hydrants, always seeking for others' compassion. It's like wait a bit there. I'm just gonna grab my popcorn and well, hopefully not die laughing, but at least I promise I will actually try laughing. Now the point with these parasites is, again, they serve a purpose of teaching, because well, everything is lessons that we learn. Okay, there is no other reason why we join this. It's the same as when you go into a video game. Okay, like let's say you play a multiple, like more PG. Okay, so when you play such a game, you enter a world, you create your own character, just like well, our consciousness is doing before it gets into your own body, right? And you start actually experiencing, and life in a way, funnily speaking, is I don't care about the body. Okay, we have this natural tendency to not care for the body. Okay, like when you play a video game, you definitely don't care about the body because it is a bunch of code. Okay, the consciousness may also not care that much about the body because well, it's just a bunch of flesh that is gonna leave behind anyways. Okay, but if you really want to experience life in a better way, you can actually start embracing your body and accepting it for its limitations and its strengths. Just like instead of bitching and complaining in a game that it's always too difficult, you can actually accept it the way it is, and you can simply improve it. You can simply improve your awareness of the game by learning some of the deeper mechanics. Okay, so you can learn more from the pros, and well, the pros in a video game would be more like the successful people in real life, right? They know the game, they can actually play it well, and they don't need to moan and complain that much, right? And some of them actually end up even turning that video game into a lifestyle. Now that is the problem with many people, that they still live this game as the NPCs. Okay, but the NPCs are just observers. If you're just an observer in your life, well, then there is a lot of problem. Now parasites attach themselves to people usually at birth. at times even before birth. Now, how do these parasites actually know when you are born? Well, this is a principle that you're going to learn most likely in Reiki and or other similar practices. It is called healing. Okay, now healing is something that takes into account the purging of anything that does not suit you. Okay, it does not imply purging the past, because the past is something that you cannot change, but the only thing you can change is your perception of that, because as I said, people have a lot of attachments. That's the problem. And when you create an attachment, you create a thought. Okay, and that thought, well, is going to be fed by the loop that you create in your mind. So let's say something bad happened and it left you with a very bad sensation, okay, or a bad emotion. Now that emotion, if you don't release it, it's gonna create a loop in your mind, and everything that is according to your logics and perceptions and beliefs and awareness, everything that will be at least similar to that, including deja vus. The point is that that idea that you created over that, the attachment, will trigger again and again and again, and will trigger more powerfully, because as I said, it is a loop. It will trigger constantly inside you, claiming more and more mind space the more you allow it to, and most likely you won't be conscious of that. As it triggers more and more, your mind is basically creating viruses. Okay, it is actually creating, well, not necessarily more, but it's creating a little monster, let's say. Okay, it's creating this little parasite that it's starting to feed off you. The moment it becomes a life form, let's say a spiritual life form in this case, it will start feeding upon the nearest source, which will happen to be you, and as it develops, it might gain more and more consciousness. Okay, and it can actually become somewhat conscious and aware, and it will start actually inflicting more pain on others, because it will need to develop. Every life form that is created starts at a low vibration, because basically even when we are born, okay, we come through our mother's womb, which is also represented by the Muladhara chakra, the first chakra, which is also the lowest vibration of the body. Now it doesn't mean that it is bad. It is a center of existence. It is a center of energy. Okay, and once you are born at the lowest vibration possible, and that is why you are vulnerable, and that is why children are very susceptible to fear, because it's basically they are born stable. Children are born with all their chakras stable, but theoretically, because once you are born as a life form, everything within you is stable and balanced. But you see, you spend 9 months in your womb, okay, in your mother's womb, and that is still a life. Okay, but people consider you alive, well, they consider you alive, well, when you actually are brought into this world, like specifically brought. Okay, but the point is, well, this is not the case. Theoretically, you are alive ever since your facet of consciousness chose to experience through you. So basically you are a memory. You are impregnated as a memory in this universe, because that is how, you know, that facet of consciousness will actually be capable of, you know, incarnating. Okay, it's like you cannot add a character in a video game without adding its files. Okay, so the character itself will be fully functional in the video game after its files have been added. But in order to add the files, okay, so in this case it would be the probability of your birth. Okay, because there is always a probability. Now the point is, in order to add those files, okay, you need to also add the coding. Okay, you have to create the coding, which will be put in the files, which will be put where they need to be, so that the character actually exists. Okay, now parasites also know about this, because most likely you will use some of those, okay, to help you experience, because some of these parasites will, you know, live on you based on a contract. Okay, there will be contracts that you can sign, like before birth, that some parasites will exist on you, they will feed on you, you know, and they will cause some certain traumas, so that you actually learn through those traumas and see how, and well, actually how you will react to those, and well, how you will do and how good you will do in this conscious existence. Okay, now after you are brought into this world. Okay, you have the plans that are done, but plans are always good and shiny on paper. Once you are brought in this life, you forget literally everything because you have to lower your vibration to be born in here. And let's not forget that you don't just go to sleep in that dimension and come here. Okay, you might have to go through different other existences, okay, through which you gain probably more or less karma. You probably gain more or less parasites that will keep stuck on that facet of consciousness, and you need awareness to become capable of removing those in one life or another. Okay, and once you acquire awareness, well, you are capable of understanding that you have, unwanted baggage and you have to let go. The only way these parasites attach to other entities is through attachments. Okay, and you will see that whenever people have an attachment, there's definitely an entity behind it. Okay, or at least a subconscious thought form that's not necessarily a fully fledged entity. So any sort of attachment that you have and doesn't belong to you is a sign that you have such a possible entity. Okay, you'll see a lot of people, especially old folks, they turn kind of aggressive, they turn very hideous in a way in behavior and such, because most likely most people nowadays and up till now for the last 100, 200, 300 years, they have been living a life of lies which told them that they will live, they will be fulfilled when they retire because they will work so much, and they will actually gain a lot of money, which was, well, part of the experiment of life and part of manipulation and learning. And well, those people kind of realized way too late that, well, they kind of ate a very beautiful lie. And with people, they will prefer instant gratification because it is an animalistic instinct. As humans, we should try not doing this because, well, it's not good for us as conscious beings. Okay, why is that? Well, instant gratification means not doing like literally anything and also getting the results. That's how parasites actually work, and parasitic humans also do that. Okay, it's much easier to latch onto others to do the work for you. Okay, but people believe that if they are the boss, they are actually in charge, but unfortunately being the boss and being a dick is actually you who is the slave. Okay, you are the slave because, well, in order to be such a dick, you need a huge amount, or not necessarily huge, but you need at least a few parasites, or at least a big one, to control you and have you act so, because the way parasites will find other entities is by seeking incompatibilities with people and having those people live together. That's how you have a lot of marriages. And marriage is also another type of bondage because, well, you see, through Christianity and, well, other religions, but usually through Christianity, there is this ritual in the church that goes, and, well, unfortunately it is not a good thing. Okay, most of the priests that you will see, they are also conducted by parasites, because these parasites, many of them, have become so conscious that they actually rule this world. It might sound shocking, but, well, they have a grasp through their own acolytes or through their own selves. They have a grasp over literally humanity itself, and through humanity they have created the world that we now see. How? Well, they created schooling systems, they created religions, because they just had to give people a lot of misery. And there are a lot of basic fears, like fear of poverty, fear of suddenly becoming ill, fear of others having more than you. And by exploiting these, you just exploit an engine of infinite possibilities. Okay, an engine of creation, which is the human mind. The mind can only create, and when you make people desperate, it can actually create even more. So with all these inventions, basically everything that was created was, well, created with a purpose of control. Control, again, and these lower emotions are a sign of these entities, because when you exhibit such emotions, you are like a lighthouse in their darkness. Okay, they will simply be invited onto you. Okay, now if you manifest negativity through the purpose letting it out, well, they simply cannot attach themselves onto you, but they will still stay close to you, because as long as you manifest negativity, you are actually going to release food for them, because that is what they want. love and higher vibration is not necessarily toxic to them, but they make them less of the wasteland that you need to be so that they can inhabit you. Okay, and once they have the least amount of control, they will seek to create all sorts of damage through usually habits. Okay, your habits are how they control you, one of the ways, because it's not the only one. Okay, now with habits, okay, they will control you more and more, because they will have you do repetitive stuff, like with smokers, for example. And as they do that, they gain more and more mind space, and when they have enough, they will feed themselves so that they can commit themselves towards doing some other thing. Now how this works is very simple. Imagine that they have only HP, they don't have mana or any other resource, and whatever they do, they have to pay some of their HP, because don't forget, all these parasites are nothing else but energy. So when they have to do something, they actually have to pay from their own selves. Okay, they sacrifice a part of their own selves, and let's not forget, they also dissipate because they cannot create their own energy. That is why they are parasitic. They have severed themselves from creation, the more advanced ones that came from other dimensions upon us, and most of these parasites are created by us as a result of other greater parasites existence, or because we suddenly reached a lower vibration. Okay, nowadays everyone has parasites because they have that much control over this society and over humanity and animals and almost everything that is alive. And the point is, well, they have created all these constructs to make sure that these new incoming generations of highly positive people, the crystal children, okay, they will have a much harder time reaching their potential. That is why you see so many people, so many children on drugs, so many children smoking, not taking care of themselves. But again, this is actually all a part of learning. Okay, because many people will be worried that, hey, you know what, those children will actually die. Now most likely they chose to experience that, because don't forget, everything that is experienced by any one individual will be sent to the collective consciousness, and from there the other facets of consciousness that are going to board on this world will be more and more aware. Okay, that is why the newer generations of children are also more aware. But even if you are aware, the problem is you forget literally everything. Now you have your spirit guides and your angels by your side, but come again, they won't be able to help you if you choose to ignore them. Okay, because that's the purpose of these parasites. You can only pay attention to a certain source. Okay, so the purpose of the parasite is to make you give it attention by doing those repetitive things. Okay, the moment, and you will see, the moment you will start behaving on your own self, okay, focusing on yourself and starting to learn things, you will see that people around you will almost instantly change their behavior. Some of them will start pulling you down, even your family. They'll usually doubt literally everything that you do, because chances are, and of course every human being is more or less controlled by these parasites, well, they will do literally everything to put you back in place so that they can drain you as well, because they are desperate not to die. And you will see a lot of people afraid of death because, well, there is no such thing as fear of death, and there is no such thing as fear. Fear is an acronym and stands for false evidence appearing real, and it's actually the fear of those entities that they will dissipate. And they have to bombard you with that fear that, you will also die. Now, yes, indeed, we will all die. You will shed the body, and those parasites, most likely, some of them, if you don't ditch them, and you haven't reached a certain level of positivity to render yourself uninhabitable, well, they will stay with you for other lives as well. You see? And if you leave this life with a lot of attachments, chances are you will incarnate yourself back on this realm again, because, if you don't have a certain vibration which is high enough, you will most likely not be able to lift from this world, okay, to leave this world, because let's say you're kind of too material in a way. Okay, the more memory you acquire in this life, the more attachments you create. Let's say that you become more dense, and the denser you become, it's like you cannot go towards, the higher aspects of existence. Okay, so you can actually end up in, instead of going back to 5D 6D after you um, pass away, you can actually end up in the lower vibrations, for example, of the fourth dimension, which is the dimension of the so-called lost souls. And these are facets of consciousness that, well, are still deeply parasited, or they have been shattered by greater forces, and they just are bits of consciousness that still exist, and they don't have a purpose, so they will actually latch themselves onto anything that is of their similar vibration. And the third dimension is also very, similarly vibrant. Now we are also vibrating towards the 4D consciousness, which is the consciousness of the heart. So the point is, we are going to get more and more in touch with the entities of the lost souls realm, because, well, we are automatically upgrading ourselves to this, and we have to go through hell to reach and understand heaven, so to speak. Okay, now how these parasites know you will be born? Well, the soul will seek a compatible family for usually 9 months before it actually gets born into the world, because in Reiki and other such practices you will learn that you have to heal the wounds that have been inflicted upon you even 9 months before your birth. Okay, like 9 months before you are brought into the world. Okay, so the 9 months in your mother's womb, and 9 months before that, because it is said that a child's spirit will choose a certain family, but they will go from family to family. Okay, and, well, when the child is ready to come into the world, the two parents will actually gain, the sign that, well, they need to give birth to a child, even if they most likely won't do well. Okay, or they don't do well as a couple. Well, they will have this urge to, well, let's call it simply fuck. Okay, and they will have a child. Now, in Christian religion, you have this ritual of binding, which is actually a ritual of bondage that the priest is doing. When the ritual of marriage occurs, basically the husband and the wife are bound together through some rituals, and the priest most likely is not aware of what they are chanting. Okay, just because they're holding a book, and just because people believe that those people are holy in a way, as I was saying and always will say, that's barely a concept and a belief which acts as nothing else than a prison. Okay, just because you believe that someone is holy doesn't make them holier than you. Okay, we are all part of creation, irrespective of how we look, how we smell, how we behave. We are all part of creation, so in a way we are all equally holy, because being holy in a way means being a teacher, and we are all teachers. Even a serial killer is a teacher, because, well, it has been decided that they will play that role and the victims will play their own roles. Okay, if you live in those low vibrational ideas that, let's say, people who commit a lot of low vibrational acts, they don't have their guiding angels, because according to your primitive belief of religion, angels only help those who are virtuous enough. Well, we don't have much in common, I'd say. And in terms of awareness, my channel will most likely not suit you, but it can actually serve as a way to learn and improve your awarenesses if that is what you seek. So parasites will know that you want to get born, because, well, they can see you lurking around people, and that you're seeking to find a compatible family. But the point is that family most likely has its own parasites. Okay, and these parasites actually fight one another because they're not necessarily compatible one with the others. Okay, a parasite of mercy may not necessarily live well alongside, I don't know, parasites of another lower emotion, because don't forget, they dissipate, and they have to ensure their supplies of energy. So they have to make sure that once they claim humans, they will make those humans, compatible with them. So that is why people who bitch and complain, they usually are controlled by a certain type of parasite. Or there can be more that work in common, because all they want is energy. And you will see that the more parasites there are on a certain person, the uglier they become physically, and their sight becomes more and more hollow, okay, because there's literally less and less consciousness in that person, because consciousness can be destroyed, okay, it can be drained enough that it is destroyed. Now it is not fully destroyed, okay, it is severed from the higher consciousness, which is your higher self, and it takes a long process to do, and well, it may actually end up as a ghost, or a lower vibrational entity, which is kind of how white dwarfs are the remnants of big stars, okay. It's just a kind of ghastly existence, a memory, let's say, of the facet that once was, and it was consumed up till a point where, well, it was no longer supplying the parasites with whatever they needed, okay. So parasites will know that you are born, and they will continue to shape your environment in whatever way possible shape, and well, any sort of event that will be needed to keep you lower vibrational. Now children are very susceptible to these entities, and they will come into this life with a lot of traumas, because when they are born they will be bullied by such entities, and even when they are in the mother's womb they are finally in a body, so they are even more vulnerable, because they can no longer flee or fight back, because once they enter the body they have to keep to certain rules. So that is why children are born balanced, but these parasites make sure that these balances are dispelled, so that they can actually inhabit those spirits. That is why children are crying when they are born. They are not crying because they are breathing air for the first time. They are crying because they are born in places of extreme lower vibrations, which is the maternity. Children's hospitals are very low vibrational, because they are well, nursery schools for these parasites. These parasites have created these special places because these places are just like black holes of positivity. They just suck every positivity and dispel it, so that they make children very vulnerable. Now you see, children, when they feel threatened, okay, because they are very perceptive to such entities, they will issue cries, and other people, the nurses in there, most likely also parasited by these entities, won't give a damn on those, because they are ordered by their parasitic masters to not do that, because well, they must obey and not do that, because if they give care to those children, well, that care will be a shield against the parasite, and the parasite won't be able to feed on those children as well. So the children are given this idea of uselessness and lack of protection ever since they are young. That is why children are kept in there under this idea that sounds so great, that we're gonna take care of your child until they are grown enough that you can take them home and take care of them, okay, and the child will be passed to the parents, who most likely have gone through this ritual, and again they feel useless and helpless, and being under the influence of parasites, guess what, they will actually continue the vicious cycle. They will actually continue to inflict pain on the child and abuse them, because it is an animal instinct. Parasites will always bully everyone who wants to be their own selves, because they are desperate for energy. So they will even bully and almost physically attack a certain person, okay. They can scratch the body at most, but it's still a kind of physical ailment, because through that they won't necessarily break bones or something like that, although in some cases they may be desperate enough to do that, and the person may be vibrating with them at such a lower frequency that they actually allow them to do that to them. So attacks will always occur because there is an internal cause, and well, that cause is usually energy that you haven't been using correctly, okay. If an entity can attack you, well, you are the one who allows that attack, and that attack can actually and only occur if you have been doing certain misdeeds that, well, allow other entities to, attack you, because that attack is a kind of a payment, okay, a karmic debt payment, because once you do something, let's call it bad, you kind of become marked by that deed, and that mark will exist until the karmic debt is removed. Now, I'm not gonna dive into too many details because I'm guessing this video is already lengthy enough, so I think I'll actually pass for now, and I'll create other videos at later times. It's been a pleasure, sharing again. So until next time, take great care of yourself, become more introspective, because now is the time for this. Well, have fun, enjoy life. Ferenc on board, signing out.